Hello everyone, welcome back to just another F1 podcast here on the Apex Motorsport. My name is Richard Smyth and this is Season 3, Episode 12. We've just had the Austrian Grand Prix and the second sprint race weekend of the season, or sprint qualifying we should probably call it. But joining me today again for this one, as always, is Ryan. Ryan, welcome back to the podcast, and you should know this by now, I say that every week, your free word race review.
I'm going to be honest, this never gets old. I genuinely do keep forgetting about this. And you keep telling me that I should know it, but I keep forgetting. We'll go with hot for the Fiera. So we'll go hot. We'll go interesting. Actually, no, that's bland. We'll go hot, strategy, and lap downs as one word.
Okay, yeah, we'll just call it lapped.
Okay, lapped. Fair enough.
Yeah, interesting choice of words there. Not your most conventional sort of free words you've ever used, but probably does describe the race pretty well. The entire weekend in general I thought was probably one of the better weekends of the season. The sprint race is obviously one of them big talking points of whether it's good or not, and I'm still of the belief that these need to be trialled, and I think this is the 5th sprint race we've had now, and I think Brazil last year was probably my favourite so far in terms of being able to see the use of it, of Lewis Hamilton coming through the pack, especially when he's in the world title fight. But this year's was quite good because it was on a track where overtaking is pretty possible. But remember, we'll start with the sprint qualifying. Just how did you feel it went? Did you enjoy watching it, or do you think that these are, we've had enough of them now, they just don't work?
The last four.
I think with 3 last season, we've had 2 this season.
So the last 4
5,
previous
yes.
to this one. So the last 4, I thought it was just a snippet or a third of the race of what we were going to expect. However, this time I thoroughly actually enjoyed watching the sprint race. I was intrigued. I was watching the lineups and seeing where everyone's grid orders were, and then watching as it played out over the 20 or so laps or whatever they were given, and I was just fully indulged. Like, there was no breaks, there was no hand. I was just staring at the screen, and I think it had something to do with the fact the fans were enjoying it, because obviously of Max, and there was a bit of competition, and then he obviously got away quite well, and then the 2 Ferraris were battling, and yeah, no, I think I thoroughly enjoyed the sprint race for once. So I've sort of increased my likeness for it, but I'm still sort of on the bench as to whether we should still include it over the conventional system.
Yeah, it worked on this circuit because you can overtake, and for me, I do like the idea of Friday evening qualifying. I think this one, it was a little bit too early having it. I think it was 4 o'clock in the UK it started. I much preferred when it was like at Silverstone last year, when it was like 6 or 7 at night, and you have your practice session in the morning or early afternoon, then you have this qualifying Friday evening, and it just creates that bit of excitement going into the Saturday, which is usually qualifying day, but you sort of have a snippet of what the race is. And I think this is the first time I've watched the sprint race and I've went, actually I want more. I wasn't ready for the race to finish, and I think that's the whole point of the sprint race, is to get people excited to then watch the Grand Prix. And I think it probably does help as well that I think this is the first sprint race that I've actually been at home able to watch, and not either at the circuit or at the British GT circuit. Usually they've always fallen during those rounds, but I really enjoyed it, and I would say that I would like to see more. Is it Brazil the next one? Just double check that.
I wouldn't know.
Because we had one in Imola, and then we had one obviously there in Austria, and yeah, it is Brazil. So we're going to have the second sort of sprint race in Brazil, so it'll be interesting to see like back-to-back comparisons to what is it as good this year? Because the chances of one of the main title contenders having to fall at the back of the grid because they're disqualifying and work their way through for a sprint race is probably unlikely. So it'll be interesting to see what it's like in terms of, hopefully at that stage we still have a title fight, but battle at the very front. But Ryan, I think next year they're possibly extended to 6 sprint races. I think that's correct. I don't know if that's officially confirmed yet, but do you think next year is sort of a make or break year for these sprint races, that we'll have 6 on very different circuits? That will give us probably the best indication whether or not these actually work.
I don't know. I would have went with 5, just increase it by 2 extra, because we're also gaining 2 circuits next. No, we gained them this year. We had Miami, and then we've got, I can't remember the name
Las
of it.
Vegas
Oh no, is that this year?
next year. Oh, the show this
I'm on
year.
about this year. What was the one that was? They were building it. It's a new street circuit. What was that for? Or am I thinking of Jeddah that we had last season?
Cuba Jeddah is on the calendar. Yeah, we've already had Jeddah this season.
Yeah, that was this season. I think that's the one I'm thinking of as I scroll down the list. Oh, we go back to Japan. Yes. Go back to Japan before going over to the US this year. Awesome. Lovely. Love it. Oh, I can't wait. It's going to be so good. But as back to your sprint race point, 6, I don't know if it's going to be too many. Or too, well, it might be too little for some fans who actually really enjoy them. The conventional format I find works better based on the fact teams have longer to set up, and then the race becomes more interesting because people have spent more time, there's more accuracy, there's more likeliness that things can go better for teams, because we see what happens with the sprint weekends is usually there is either some mechanical or electrical problems with the car that haven't just been fully checked over, because the practice time that would have been spent doing long runs, which would have been FP3 or practice 3, is usually long runs and fast runs. So those things might get skipped over, but I suppose it adds to the entertainment, which is the whole point of the sprint race. So anyway, we're just back to the same old debate. Is it now going to be too much, or is it still going to be too little for those who really enjoy it? We'll never know until we're fully satisfied.
Yeah, I think next year, if they do have these 6 races, I feel like after that there needs to be a decision whether they're keeping them in the calendar or not. I still don't think they should be in every single race, because, I know I keep going on about the fact there's a selfish one again this year, but this year we had the traditional practice day, qualifying day, race day, whereas last year we had qualifying, sprint and the race. And the sprint worked from a spectator's point of view of creating more excitement, and you had multiple sessions where there was actually excitement, but it didn't. There's no point the race this year where I felt I was missing the sprint race. So I don't know. I think there needs to be a lot looked at, and there needs to be a lot of fan input as well in the final decision, not just down fully to the teams. But a sprint race, my opinion, is better than an extra pointless practice session. So this FP2 that happens on a Saturday morning is a bit pointless, but 2 practice sessions in a sprint race I think is probably a little bit more exciting than 3 practice sessions. But it's one of them things where you can't please everyone. And one thing that I do, it's been rumoured on social media, that's not going to please a lot of fans, is the fact that Spa, the circuit in Belgium, might drop off the calendar for next season, which would be a real shock. And just very quickly, Ryan, we may be getting the South African Grand Prix next year at the expense of Spa. What are your thoughts on Spa potentially dropping off the calendar? Such an historic circuit. Do you think it would be a shame to lose, even if we're getting a circuit like South Africa back?
That would make me sad. I would rather drop the Spanish Grand Prix, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me on that because it's probably one of the most boring races to watch. I'd rather drop the Spanish Grand Prix for the South African Grand Prix than drop, say, the likes of Monaco or Spa, because they're probably two of the best, two of the better races to go watch. Obviously, Monaco's not really a race, it's more of a polite walk with, you know,
Nice, very fancy, expensive cars.
very expensive
It
cars.
just sums up
Tight,
Monaco.
narrow streets where buses sometimes get gridlocked because they both go round the hairpin at the same time, and it's always interesting because someone always crashes there too, and then you go underneath and it's dark and then it goes bright and you're like, whoa. But no, I'd rather see the likes of, a track most fans don't really like. They should put a poll up of all 20 races, and the one that everyone wants to get rid of, just get rid of it. Because,
so why is that France?
Instead, because everyone's been pledging for a South African Grand Prix for the last 3-4 years since it became sort of a big talking point, because they're always talking about diversity and how it can't actually be a real world championship without going to every single continent, because we don't go to Africa, so it's not really a world championship. So that argument's there, but hopefully they don't take Spa off, and that is my quick point over. Hopefully we get on to the race.
Yes, let's actually talk about the Grand Prix itself, because we're nearly over 10 minutes into this podcast. We haven't yet talked about the actual race, but Carlos Sainz was on fire, literally, this weekend. That was scary. My mind, obviously, it wasn't as severe, but my mind quickly went back to the Grosjean sitting in the car full of flames, because at one point I didn't think Sainz didn't realise the car was on fire and wasn't going to get out as quickly as it did, although it was difficult because the car was rolling backwards, which wasn't great. Just talk me through that incident just from your perspective.
Yeah.
Do you find it scary as well?
Not so much, because it seemed to have been sort of a well enough controlled fire at the back that, yes, it was creeping forward quite quickly, but the main thing was that it wasn't near the fuel lines or the fuel tank. It was external, probably due to oil escaping and then igniting. Because of the such high temperatures that those engines run at, oil can combust. And, well, we just seen it. He came off into the slip road. Flames, it was smoking, got heavy smoke and then black smoke, and then we seen the fire. And once the fire happened, they just had pulled up to the marshal post, and then one of the marshals tried to run out to him when he sort of half waved him to come down, and he ran down and he tried to put a chock underneath the front right wheel, which didn't really do much because Sainz was trying to get out, like jump out of the car, because he could probably feel the heat coming from the back. He just couldn't get out because obviously every time he lifted his foot off the brake, the car would start to move, and obviously he wouldn't be able to get out because it was on a slope, and he had to wait for the marshal to put the wheel chock under, which makes me think if they're coming up to that point ever again, they need to have marshals ready with more than just one wheel chock, and have maybe 3 marshals there, one for chocks, one for getting him out of the car, and one for getting the fire extinguisher to it. But no, I didn't think it was a scary accident. The Grosjean thing didn't really pop into my mind. If anything, I was just sort of like, what is he doing? Like, what is these marshals doing? Marshals need a bit more training, I think. That should be up to the track organisers to sort that out. But, yeah.
And obviously, I think Matteo Bernardo said afterwards that this is the same issue, as a recurring issue, the same with all the reliability issues with Ferrari. This time it did actually catch on fire. But they've struggled all season for reliability, and it's going to cost them the championship. We've discussed this pretty much every podcast about the Ferrari reliabilities potentially handing Red Bull the title. Ryan, Leclerc obviously had his own issue with the throttle, so it wasn't linked to the reliability of the engine, but it's a bit concerning for Ferrari that they don't have a car that's at 100%. And do you think that they're sort of just now hoping on the fact that the car will survive a race rather than putting too much effort into improving the reliability, that they would rather have, we said before, a fast car that's slightly unreliable than a car that's just slightly slower than Red Bull but more reliable?
I think Ferrari at this point, we're near enough halfway through. We're getting pretty close to halfway through the season, and they'll have that break. Obviously, that break isn't for work. It's just a break for everyone. So it's gonna be one of those. Well, some people do stay, but that's on their own accord. It's not. They're not forced to. They do it if they want. But obviously, the Maranello team, they seem to like to stay. So things could possibly get done, but I can't see anything happening soon. I think they're gonna probably just keep burning through engines more than likely, and no pun intended. They're gonna keep going through engines, grid penalties, starting from the back, working to the forward, damage limitation once again. Probably just have a better go at it come next year, which sucks for the likes of the customer teams like Alfa Romeo, who seem to be, they start off really well, and all of a sudden they're just starting to suffer, I guess. Haas is on the other direction. They're doing well, for once, which is also nice to see. Wouldn't have said that if this was last year. Different circumstances. But yeah, I think Ferrari just need uh, just sort of try and pinpoint it without taking too much out of the racing. That's probably the best way to go about it.
So as you're saying there, Ryan, Haas definitely improved this season. Compared to last season, they have been so much better, and we've seen Mick Schumacher really come alive the past few races, especially Silverstone, obviously getting his first points finish. But P6 this weekend in Austria was just incredible, and we've seen a lot on social media about this is Mick's villain era coming out. He's very much like his dad in the way he's speaking to the media now, and obviously with the surname there is that expectation of this is what he can achieve, this is what he should achieve. But we've seen throughout his career, and we'll get the plug in for the F1 ladder video, which we made ages ago when he was still in F2 before he even won the title. But we said that his second season is always better than his first in every championship he's been in. This is probably, and he said it himself, it's a little bit unfair to compare this season to last season because there's a brand new car, but he's come on a lot better. He fought Verstappen. He had a great battle with him at Silverstone, albeit Verstappen with a car that was very much down in power and wasn't working well, but he still had that battle obviously to the line. And we've seen a great battle with Hamilton in the sprint race. I feel like that's one of the best battles I've seen in a long time. It was very enjoyable. But Ryan, have you been impressed with Mick Schumacher the past few races, and just Haas in general? That's two double points finishes for a team that looked down and out, that were potentially not even going to be on the grid, to their potential, points finishers in every race now.
Yeah, I think short circuits seem to suit them a wee bit better. Obviously, last race was Silverstone, so that pretty much happened probably due to the carnage, and they managed to keep themselves up. And obviously, it was a bit wet, but it wasn't wet, and they seemed to just have a quick car. Mick was doing quite well, so yeah. And then we come to Austria, where they were just a different beast altogether, and I don't even understand how or where all this pace came from. Whether it's just because there's a lot of shorter, tight corners, I guess would be the best way to put it, and they can put the power down a bit better. But even then, we seen Mick constantly under DRS, outpacing Hamilton, which doesn't happen. It's been a long time since a Schumacher passed a Hamilton, and it was quite spectacular to see. As well as we seen him battling away with Verstappen in not the sprint. It was
Silverstone,
yeah, it was at Silverstone. I keep forgetting. I get mixed up between races really easily. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, but even Kevin, he should have backed off a bit in the sprint race to let Mick keep up, but that's obviously not his problem. He's got his own race to do, even though it could have eventually saved points, because I don't think Hamilton would have got past Kevin anyway. Even though, come the actual race, Mick was a lot harder for Hamilton to get past than it was for him to get past Kevin. It took him like 2 tries to get past Kevin, and it took him like the guts of a third of the race to get past Mick. It was quite funny to watch. But no, Haas are definitely on the up, and it's good to see. Gunter's ship has gotten bigger, as every time they score points, he gets a bonus, it seems. But no, the Haas social media team's loving it, and so are we, the fans.
Yeah, it is great to see, especially after the struggles of last year, and obviously, the disruption at the start of the season.
And he who shall not be named.
Yeah, well, just named him, but yeah, getting rid of one of the drivers, Brown and Magnussen having that whole, excitement of having them back. It's been good. It's nice to see. But Ryan, predictions time.
Whoa, already?
We'll actually remember to do pole position this week because we forgot to do it last week. I'll take the blame for that one. We're level in points still, 24 apiece. It's getting quite interesting, and we may have to go to the end of the season deliberations over various contentious points
Safety
that
cars.
we're sort of hoping we wouldn't have. Yes, we're sort of hoping we wouldn't have to do. So we sort of hope one of us will get a victory by the end of the season. Although we could have an appeal process if it is that tight, because we are I'm certainly a competitive person and don't want to lose our line. So Ryan, pole position for the next race, which is France.
Yes.
Which isn't the most exciting race,
No.
bit of an eyesore of a track,
Yes.
and it's also my birthday weekend, so what a race to celebrate my 21st birthday on.
Boo! You're an old man. Pole. POLEVERSTAPPEN. I think that's pretty clear how that spells Verstappen. Oh!
Yes. Yeah. You happy with Verstappen?
Yeah.
I'm guessing that was by my prediction of Carlos Sainz.
Yes, I
for pole
was
position.
looking. That's interesting.
Yes. Race 1. I'll let you go first in this one, then we'll switch it up for the podium.
Okay, we're going to switch it for the podium then.
Yeah.
Right, because I think you already know who I'm going with here, based off of who won it last year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely that guy. The fastest Canadian
Yes.
ever.
Yeah, and
No, it's his Verstappen. He won it last year. He's going to
Yeah.
win it again. Well, in saying that, he has won the Austrian Grand Prix last year, and that didn't happen. And it is a lot more straight line speed. Oh wait, yeah, they have more straight line speed. What am I talking about? Verstappen, for sure.
I'm going to stick with Sainz. I feel like, he's not going to make up, but he's a point to prove after obviously being out the last race. Podium then, Sainz, you know what? I need to get the points, so I'm being bold. Perez and Russell. I reckon Leclerc and Verstappen are going to have a little bit of a collision.
Hence,
Although, in fairness, it's France, so if you do have a collision, there's a very high possibility that you will be able to rejoin. I mean, if you crash out in France, it is a bit of an issue.
if you run wide at all, you gain an advantage.
Yeah. Although, after the track limits fiasco they had in the last race, so there's something like 43 track limit violations. It could be quite interesting in France.
Eesh.
I feel like you know what? Let's add an extra prediction onto the end. Track limits.
This doesn't go towards anything. This is just for bants.
No. Yes, because.
And maybe bonus points.
I don't think we're actually going to get an actual figure unless it's extortionate. But I'm going to go for 34 violations.
I know what I'm going to do to guess mine. 21.
You want me 21?
I hit the RNG button.
Okay. So who's joining Verstappen in your podium?
Perez is also up there. He dunfed the last race, so he's definitely gonna make it out alive this time. You know what? Since you want Russell, I'm gonna say Hamilton. Just for the fact Hamilton
Keeping
knows
up
this
the-
track. quite well.
Yeah, that'll be 6 podiums and 7 races for Merck. If that
Wouldn't be too
does
bad.
happen. No. Fastest lap, you know why mine's Lando Norris as per usual.
I'm gonna go Leclerc.
I love the way I'm just throwing away points when I put Norris. Given he has got 1 this season and I didn't even realise happened. So, safety car, you got this right last time.
Yeah, but this is France.
Only it was, yeah.
I'm gonna go super bold. I'm gonna say there's gonna be no safety cars.
I've literally put the same.
Ah, well then I'll go 1.
Okay. Yeah.
Just because it's France, like how can you bring out a safety car?
Yeah, I think was it last season, the season before there was, or maybe it was the season before that. There was no cars that were out at all. So yeah, I don't think we'll see the safety car. I don't know what safety car. Is Aston Martin the safety car for the entire season now?
I don't know. I haven't seen the Merc one yet.
Seen them. Yeah.
But the Merc's faster.
I know they use whichever is either the most popular or the market they need to grow in the various countries to go to.
Oh, I thought it was just what's best suited for the track.
No, it's all about money and business.
Of course.
Also, and another point we need to make: Michael Massey's completely left the FIA altogether.
Back to Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where he's going. No mention at all reasons of why
just said
he
family.
was sacked. Yeah, so and we've seen Vettel already storm out of the drivers' briefing over stewardship. So it's been interesting on Formula One. Right, time for our favourite predictions of the podcast, the wildcard prediction, where we let the internet decide for us. So get that random generator up and give me my Formula One driver number.
So we click it once.
Let's see what it is.
Click it twice. Click it 3 times. And we got 18.
18, Lance Stroll.
Yes. That's an interesting one.
I don't know, Stroll. I think I got him two podcasts ago where I predicted him to start dead last.
Yeah, you did.
So, you know what? Given how Aston Martin have had many double outings in Q1, could Stroll get into Q2 and starting 14th or higher be a wild card?
Hey, if he gets out of Q1, I'll give it to you.
Okay. I'll put 14 in the top 14 in a bracket.
So yeah.
But Q2, I think we got one and we can have the contingent bonus point if needs to be.
My turn.
Yes.
Click it once.
What should be number 5?
Click it twice. Click it 3 times, and we get. We can't do that one. It's 44. We can't do the big boys.
No. Well. Yeah. No.
The next one after that's 34, which would be 33 Max Verstappen or 35 Sergei Shotgun. He's not there no more.
I mean, you could have done the Mick Schumacher for the 44, being 47.
Fair enough. Hold on, 83. 83. Hold on, what's 83 here?
Nearly Jack Aitken, 81, but he's not. Well, he could be racing, but
83.
He's not meant to be. You're getting the test driver numbers.
There's no one actually in the 80s anymore.
Yeah, Jack Aitken's probably the closest, isn't he? 81.
Yeah. Right, we'll just.
I mean, that could be a wildcard prediction. He drives for Williams.
Right, hold on. So there's no drivers past 77. No, Valtteri Bottas is the last one. Why did I keep going to 100? Right, we'll alter it.
Well, because the likes of Jack Aitken or Robert Kubica may make a shock return.
Yeah, no chance. Right, RNG 1, 2, 3, 11. 11.
That's Perez.
Joking.
This is taking longer than the actual podcast itself.
40 goes to Hamilton. 44 doesn't it? Yeah. Why is this just round and round and round? 62. George Russell 63. Why? Wish there was a way of just putting names under it. I'm just gonna keep clicking until we get a low number. 3. Yeah. Who's 3?
Ricardo. That's fine.
That's fair enough. Ricardo top 7. You take that?
Okay.
You on the Betfair exchange? We'll take that, yeah.
Yeah, he's the driver who has confirmed that he's got a contract for next season, but there's still lots about his future, and I think we'll discuss that once we know probably a little bit more. Probably could be the next podcast for all we know. But yeah, Ryan, that is I think all we have to talk about in this podcast. There's so much more, but we just don't have time to discuss it all in this podcast. So yeah, any final thoughts before I close it out?
Oh, yes. He did go. That was good to see. Joe did go. I'm going to say Joe no go this time.
Okay. But there'll be no safety cars.
No.
Well, there'll be one safety car, so you're hoping that's the one safety car.
Oh, well, that, or he just doesn't get out of the pit lane.
Yeah, but after 11 races, we've had Verstappen with 3 poles and 6 wins, with Leclerc 6 poles and 3 wins. Leclerc has led 5 more laps than Verstappen, but Verstappen ultimately has more points, so this is creating a great battle. Hopefully we'll see these two fighting more in the future throughout the season, and hopefully France actually is going to be an exciting race for once, because it's not been the best in the past, but fingers crossed it'll be a good race. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching, listening, wherever you're listening, watching this podcast. Just the support's been great. So yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in, and hope you join us in the next one for the French Grand Prix. Goodbye.